Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is Jonas Reports for the 7th of March, and well, I think things played out pretty much as we were talking about. Break of the ABM yellow. I'm currently showing this one that has the NBI Opus trade on there. It liked the dip from a purchase standpoint. Of course, I've got the C up here for corrections. The only problem is when I go to update the correction, that's what I get from my chart. So not sure if it's a TS issue right now and it'll get corrected. We'll see. Likewise, same thing in the NASDAQ readings from that setup, and we can see that that trail off of the steel was enough to create a little bit of the pullback. It wasn't much for the NASDAQ, and so that's the disparity that we were talking about before. Whoops, I can't use that daily. Got to go back to this one, where we already had a little bit more weakness expressed in the ES with the declining shakeout and everything, and so we had our specific levels, not to mention the daily ones. From a 50K standpoint as well, we can see that we were just in a kind of a malaise sideways. And if I put up my traditional 50K, it's also not giving me the data, so an older one that has just the regular DLCon 2. From the reasonable little buy setup that it developed right here, we would not like that from a buy configuration at all, because there was no reset of orange within the setup, but those are the adjustments that are still taking place with that program there. And of course, we just came back and revisited the low, which is the dip below the red line here from the original 50K right there, and we had started that turnaround, and it was rather obvious what we were looking at from the weakness configuration here without having that reset of the steel going back. The euro, no change in that, and that so that didn't provide any additional help. Gold just flattening out here after having filled in what we were expecting, which was the dip right to here to fill this below the red line right there. Of course, we made a new red line dip, so now any new lows will get filled in further. So here's the problem I've got with the 5K that I have here, is showing a correction all the way up here with the current level and sort of frozen. I was clear from the end of the day, so it's not really an issue for me. Intraday was kind of interesting because we started lower, and I talked about this in the video that we would likely come back and revisit that. We came in here, we popped a little bit, got just above the 50K, 50% Fibonacci line, and then sure enough, well, it started with the short snake that developed here, and then proceeded to a full DOC spread, which then led to the retrace back to the lows. And then we ended up with just considerable weakness, even though we ended up with the P2 in this configuration. You had the green oversign, but that immediately flipped right back up there at the 23%. So easy from the turnaround standpoint, and boom, came back down. It started out with no orange. Of course, it takes up so many letters when it says that, but by the time it did flip them over, it was right at the 23, which is what the orange popping in right there. And that gave a little pop as well, but we'd already dipped below the red line, so we knew the low was coming back to be retested, and of course it did, and briefly made a new low. And like I've said before, when they break those lows, they tend to try and fight it right back up to it, and they're looking to capture some momentum, additional short cover. It wasn't a whole lot. There just wasn't a whole. Again, this is where we had that 2783 from before, and even before that, the 2817. So it just continued in that same bias where it's just pretty much every time it hit the 50%, rejected, goes back to the low, 50%, and back to the low again. So it's kind of where we're at. We'll see if it finalizes an update and I'm able to return. I'm not going to apply the correction to any more windows until I can get some of these to come back online. So we'll go from there. Maybe it's just my setup, but I don't think so. It's kind of a little strange. As always, though, I will put up anything that was relevant. I'm still having issues back and forth too with that Skype in the update. After a while, it freezes because a dedicated server never turns off, so theoretically it should just keep going, but such is not the case. Anyway, that's what we're looking at. Well, okay, we're starting to see some movement right there from that setup, but I don't think my other 5K is. No, that one's the 50K, and the original is still waiting for data somehow. All right, well, we'll go from there. We've got the general gist of things that we're just kind of in this malaise portion. Again, anything below the 2793, it's kind of straightforward as far as I'm concerned with the more short bias given what we're seeing from the daily as well as even from the 50K. So we'll just continue to play that as it is, and if I get squared away with this and back up, I will certainly update it with my other chart that had all of the lines. Hopefully they stay if it comes back with the correction. Trade well, and we'll talk to you later.